When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
If a generalized black woman is doing this and being this, that is that is irresponsible.
No,
when
you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
Showing me,
black and proud. Claim you're African, black and proud.
I think that if
when you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
a page,
what is the status of people who have FBA?
I'm telling you. When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
That's why I was laughing, because I am
claim you're African.
I'm not saying the framework doesn't do a thing, but
become a part of it.
We've been
forward to black men
become a part of it.
Being in the control. We
become a part of it.
Only
embrace it.
that those to me one of the best stories I've ever heard.
Embrace it. When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind
that
back.
mental growth takes place. You've been misled by leadership, for instance, that think that you can consume.
When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you.
Peace and power, family. Dr. Daw back in the building once again. Conversation with Dr. Daw, special guest in the building today, family. Make sure you get the likes up. Make sure you share it. It's going to be a dynamic conversation with the dear Baba, the elder. I got this one way I be trying to hold off and act like y'all don't know who I'm going to have and all that type of thing. It might make somewhat of a weird experience, but that's just what I do. Right. So nonetheless, family, I want to dive right into it and let you know you are able to join us in the conversation. This is going to be a dynamic conversation. Today's discussion is entitled Pan-African Psychology in the Age. Oh, okay. Deconstructing the Fail-Safe. Let me say that one more time. Deconstructing the Fail-Safe. Subtitle, Pan-African Psychology in the Age of FBA and ADOS. Identity politics. So nonetheless, we're going to let it go. We're going to let it do what it do. This is one of those conversations that I'm excited to know more about my dear elder and Baba. Like I always do, I tend to tell you things like, I'm sorry, Baba. I sent you you sent me a bio. You sent me a bio, and I don't tip, and I read over the bio, but I typically I don't read the bio. I want you to tell us about it. But nonetheless, what I want to do is this. I want to thank you for joining me today. Again, deconstructing the fail-safe, family. Make sure you get this video, get the thumbs up, family. Before I, please share it in your group chats and your Zoom chats, your whatever, put it in your text message threads, your family threads, all the type of things. Let's see who was in the building real quick before we get started with the dear Baba. Brother Jadorian, peace, and what do you got here today? I know you got strength and love, peoples. Okay, strength and love, Brother Jadorian. I can't keep up with Jadorian. He changes it about every few days. So JG11, what it is, man? I've been missing you. I have not been ignoring you, JG11. I want to say peace and power to you as well. But what's been happening is I go back to the threads and I see that you say, "What's up, Dr. Daw?" And I miss you, but nonetheless, I see you today because you're early. You're on time. You're on time. You know what I mean? So peace and power to you, brother JG11. Still good to see you still around, Mr. Dr. the B, Sham Shavers. What it is? You say peace to the doc, peace to the chat. In Dr. Daw's lecture hall. Yep, we in the lecture hall today, and we got a special guest. No, what do they call it? Guest lecturer today. As we do it dialogically, dialectically, and we do it African-centeredly, which means that it is a communicative type of approach, meaning that we all do this together. So JG11 says, hopefully your people can come together. Mr. K says, what it is, Mr. K from the UK. Peace. You said okay, let me leave y'all alone and get to the task at hand. So we have a special guest today again, and the main title is Deconstructing the Fail-Safe. We have none other than Baba, Dr. Khalil-Bey in the house. Nonetheless, we have him. So I want to ask you, I don't know, have you been watching any of the mess I've been getting into as of late?
you use the word mess.
You know,
But
yeah,
first, let me say Asante Sana.
yeah,
And I appreciate the opportunity to be
yeah.
honored in this forum. It's not every day that somebody asks me to come and speak, and it's not
Mhm.
every day that I accept.
Yes.
But I'm thankful because this is my community that we're talking to. I'm a native of Baltimore. I did a lot of traveling, but I'm talking to my community, so I'm always extra excited when I talk to my community.
It is my honor. Is my honor, and is the audience's honor. And when I mean the good mess, nonetheless. But the good mess, nonetheless. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, what I want to ask you to just want to ask you, why are you essential to the conversation in general? Not just the conversation I've been having and I'm speaking about, but it's all to me. It is about us. It is about what your book put out. But tell me what makes you essential to the conversation.
More than anything else in this day and
Mhm.
time, I am an honored elder.
Mm-hmm.
And because I am an honored elder, I'm always looking at where I can help to bring some balance. We
Mm-hmm.
have enough imbalance amongst our people as it is.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever it's possible for me to be able to share some of the experience that I've had over the years,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to do that to kind of help those people that can't see, that are confused,
Yes, sir.
that are having challenges and or problems, that I might be able to help them get more balance in their life. That's my goal. My goal is to be a servant to humanity.
Mm. Yeah, I heard that, and you speak to this idea of balance, right? And then I'm looking at this title of the book that you have, Deconstructing the Fail-Safe, Self-Care Principles for Re-Africanization, right? And I read quite a bit of it. I read some months ago. I read some last week. I read some this morning. But there's one particular chapter that I do want to kind of delve into as it relates to what we did, maybe several chapters, because I think the chapter, I can't remember the chapter off the top of my head, but it talks about your story, right? It talks about, you know, the process you went through, and I don't know what the term is now, because that was a few weeks ago, but it was about this like finding yourself or re-Africanizing yourself, or whatever the term is that you utilize. But tell me more about this deconstructing the fail-safe, Baba.
You know, I'm able to introduce myself in a lot of ways because a lot of experiences that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that I have many awakenings
Mm-hmm.
and many layers of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I look at that and understand what that means to me, first of all, I'm not only I'm an elder, I'm an old head.
Oh,
You
here,
know,
huh?
I'm an old head to
Okay.
come out of the streets of Baltimore City
Mm-hmm.
in the 50s, where Jim Crow was still rapid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, up until the present time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I in my studying, I found out that I have been programmed for self-destructive behavior
Mm.
through the educational systems,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
through the
Mm-hmm.
religious systems, through the criminal systems, through the law system, through all of the systems
Mm-hmm.
that our elders have talked about.
Yeah, yes, sir.
And as I've studied that more and more, and I began to practice self-destructive behavior. And when I say self-destructive behavior, I'm talking about hating myself and practicing procedures and lifestyle characteristics that showed I had self-hatred. See, I'm also one of them people that have a long-term history of drug use,
Mm-hmm.
heroin, alcohol, cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I started walking under the influence of alcohol on Cars Beach 70 some odd years ago. And when I looked at that, now the story is, here's the story, that I was in my father's arms or some kind of stuff, and I snatched the can of beer out of his hand and drank it. In his arms, my father's a big man.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't light. He was, if
Mm-hmm.
you snatch something out of his hand, that means you must have been a man too.
Mm.
So he gave me a hit of that beer, you know, and I started walking, you know.
What do you mean when you were like
Well, not a baby, but
Mhm.
old enough toddler to be able to crawl and reach and grab, you know, and I had to hit a bear and started walking. Now, you know, as a kid, I ain't had no information on none of that. I ain't had no information, didn't make anything. I didn't understand a lot of it until I was grown many decades later.
Mm-hmm.
But as I look back at that and I understand what alcohol is as a drug, it also let me know that I got to boost the courage
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from that bed and started walking. If in my psychological mind I understood that means I was gonna go back time after time after time after time to get some more, because it gave me the courage to do something I had never done before. You know, and as I understand that, now that's just one segment of me understanding and looking at myself as I understood my own self-destructive thinking and behavior. So I look at it also by the time I was 14. Now remember, I grew up in Baltimore, so I had different types of experiences that I remember, some clearly, some I remember through the contents of the stories that my family would tell. But I do remember a lot of racism, not in my home. I never experienced racism in my home in the sense that it was hatred and anger. There was conversations. But what happened is, I do remember that around the age of 14 years old, when I started using drugs, by then I had grown to be an angry, you know, the typical what they call the angry black man. By the time I was 14, I was probably the angry black man. Angry at the system, angry at society, blamed it on everybody.
What age was that? 14?
Yeah. So if it was age 14 when I recognized it, it was long before then, when it started happening. So at the age of 14 was the first time I used drugs. You know, that's how I kind of categorized that, because that was the initiation of self-destructive behavior on that level. But prior to that time, we used to live around 1000 block Argyle Avenue, right? And I remember the police would drive by and call us nigger, you know, the N-word, you know, and you know, we would throw little eggs and different stuff like that. But it was a hit. I mean, now almost every time they came by, they would do that. Now, as a kid, what could I really do? And what did I really, really, really know? Except for all of the responses around me was responses of anger. So when we grow up identifying with the emotional responses that we grow up in. And so I took on a whole lot of those characteristics of anger, not in the house, but in the community. So as I began to grow more and more and practice more self-destructive behavior, and being locked up. Now, let me tell you that my awakenings came at different times. During practicing self-destructive behavior, I also went to jail. And I think it was 71 or 72 when I was locked up. But because I had already accepted the Nation of Islam and had my ex before I got locked up, I was not automatically, but I ended up becoming the Nation of Islam acting minister in the Hagerstown, which one of the people that brought the first Ramadan of the Nation of Islam in Hagerstown. So, you know, there still was a lot of anger there. I didn't see anger. I just seen it as being normal and being a warrior. Being an angry person, it was being a warrior to me. Always being prepared. Always knowing, at that age, knowing to me that the police was my enemy. My active enemy. And those are some of the things that I grew up with. But
how old were you about then?
Man, as I say, starting at the age of 14, probably by then I was 16 or 17, because at that time you were 16 when they could take you in the penitentiary. So I was over on 954 Forest Street when I was 16 years old. That's the Maryland Penitentiary. So by the time I was 18, I had been to jail a few times. And I'm actually just giving you layers of that self-destructive thinking that brought me eventually to understand that there was a fail-safe placed inside of my thinking, a psychological fail-safe. I think that it probably started in the DNA maybe a generation or two before. It didn't necessarily start when
What's this fail-safe? What's that fail-safe?
Well, the fail-safe is a psychological implant in our thinking that prevents us from acting out on the self-destructive behavior that we have been programmed to think when we're attacked by white folks. Yeah, you know, if you look at One of the other examples that I use is we have multitudes of us that know how to use weapons. We have multitudes of us that have been in many, many, many military regimes and know how to use almost every weapon that it is.
Yes, sir.
Why is it that when we know and we collectively get together and we talk about who this enemy is, who this psychological enemy is, we never get together. Well, not never. That's too harsh a word, because we do have examples of the deacons and a whole lot of other people that got together and said, we're not having it no more. But collectively, we don't get together and go towards to take our own sovereignty. Now, there's a reason why we won't do that. In my understanding, that reason is there's a mechanism planted in our consciousness that once we get up and start moving towards that fail-safe, comes up and stops us and prevents us from doing it.
Yeah, let me do this. I think this is the second week in a row. I did this with my guests. I think I started out saying I was going to do this, but what I typically do is say what I observe when I'm out or when I engage with the individuals that I bring on. Now, one of the things I observe about you is that you are a balanced mix of energies. And sometimes that's a very, from my standpoint and understanding, that sometimes people don't know how to read those type of people. Sometimes those people can have other people feel uncomfortable because they're hard to kind of figure them out. And what do I mean by that? So what I mean is, I've seen you, you got your red, black, and green on. And you kind of talked to it a bit earlier. You it's like this Kamayu, right? This silent warrior, right? It's this balanced piece. It's like I see the very therapeutic, mental health, social science perspective inside of you. I also see this very strong and person that is about accountability and truly wants to see our community break this fail-safe. These things that are holding us back, these things that keep us, in your first chapter of your book, you call miseducated. So that's what I observe about you. And I don't know if you want to go in on some of your background as far as I hear that background around, your early story. You can continue with that up into, what changed and your educational background, and then, however you want to do it, let's do it.
Well, eventually it'll all come, and I know that there'll be different questions that you ask or somebody else will ask.
Yes, sir.
I'm usually triggered by the questions that people ask because my memory, sometimes I don't remember all of the things that may be important to somebody else, but because they're all a part of me, they're in me, and I walk with them, so I don't have to remember them.
Yes, sir.
But because everything is related. It's kind of how like I'm going to give you the information on the fail-safe. The whole piece is I did so much to myself that I got to a point that either I was going to live differently or die. And that was based on my children. I had four queens, beautiful queens, right? And when they were born, I was, North Avenue, North Avenue right there where Coppin is?
Yes, sir.
There were some houses over there on the Warwick Avenue side, on the south side of North Avenue. And I lived in one of those buildings. It was an empty building, me and a whole lot of other brothers. I don't know if we was trying to duplicate the move industry up in Philly, but that's how we looked, and we pirated everything. That was the last time I used some drugs.
Okay.
Because when I looked at my life, I didn't see anything of success, even though there were multitudes of successes. But I didn't see me being a father that I wanted to be. And one of the most important things for me in the world is to be a father. And I wasn't being that. I had 2 children in St. Louis that I had abandoned, And the children that I had here, might as well say I'd abandoned them. Even though I was in their life, I wasn't doing what I thought a father's supposed to do. So I ended up putting myself in a treatment program.
Yeah.
For the first time. When I say the first time, I don't mean the first time I put myself in a treatment program. I mean the first time I put myself in the program and actually asked for some help. Because most of the time that I went in, I just did it for a rest. I knew I wasn't going to stop. And that was multitudes of times. But there were so many things that happened around this. It was like I was doing the Head Start thing with my children also. I got introduced to Sojourner Douglas at the same time. Like, we have multitude of things that happen at the same time. And all of these things were happening that when I went into treatment, I knew that I needed to do something else. I had already been exposed to Kwanzaa awakening. That was one of my first awakenings. I had already been exposed to Dr. Edwin Nichols, which was another of my awakenings. I had been exposed to the Nation of Islam, which was another of my awakenings. So many different awakenings that I was exposed to, but I still hadn't initiated what I needed to do for myself. See, the fail-safe was, I was still acting out on the fail-safe. I knew that I needed to do something, but I hadn't done it yet. You talked about how most people can't figure me out. I don't know if that's the language you use, but that's how I interpret it as a language. That's because sometimes I haven't figured me out. But the bigger thing is I study everything.
Yes, sir.
And by the way, I am a mental health professional.
Yes, sir.
I've been in the field of mental health for the past 50 years.
Yes, sir.
And by the way, I was studying under that first Black Mental Health Alliance with all of those brothers and sisters that was down at the I was trained by psychiatrists and psychologists in substance use 50 some years ago.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I got some initial training from all of those. And they were teaching me things that was unheard of as it relates to psychological education and stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And as I studied more and more and more. Now, mind you, none of these things will happen in isolation. I'm still doing a lot of the same other things as I'm learning these new techniques and new ideologies. I was there when they first initiated acupuncture for detox.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Under some of those scholars. Now, mind you, I'm still very early in my professional history of being a counselor myself.
How long ago is this about, Baba? About 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll be 74 next month.
Okay.
I was like 21 and 22 and 23. Some of my first mentors was like Maxie Collier and those people, Ross Ford, one of your mentors, Dr. Henry Gregory. We worked on the same front line together.
Yeah, I mean, look, I heard a lot of real, I don't know what you want to call it. What do they call it? Like guerrilla type of therapeutic measures. Yeah, I've heard about some things. I'm just thinking like, whoa, was some of the interventions that I heard that you all were doing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there was as much regulation back then, or y'all was just kind of like, revolutionizing the whole mental health field in a way.
Well, there wasn't as much regulation back then. You have to remember that in the 70s, there was very little regulation. Drug addiction was not even considered a disease at that point.
Yes, sir.
Alcoholism was considered a disease in 1955. World Health Organization, they decided that alcoholism was a disease.
Yes, sir.
But during that period of time, they hadn't looked at the disease of addiction. In fact, cocaine wasn't even looked at as an addictive drug. And that, man, confrontational confrontational psychology is what I called it, because I was in a few of those treatment plans that they used that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, I resisted it. I wasn't nobody going to talk to me any kind of
Yes,
way.
sir. Yes, sir.
So I wasn't having it. And one of the models that I still use today: don't treat nobody no different than you would treat yourself in the process.
Yes, sir.
So I know that if I'm gonna cuss somebody out and call them out their name, and I don't want that to me, then I'm gonna use a different technique.
Yeah.
And because I have a brother, man. I have a brother. Just so happens, you know, my brother and your father are pretty close, and going back from the drum circle in the park.
Okay.
My brother was also one of my first teachers, and when he would come home from different institutional living, he would bring all sorts of books to me, like breathology. I have books that are 30. Well, I'm lying now because they're more than 30, 60 some odd years old, dealing with ancient psychologies, Indians and Sanskrit and all of that. So at the age of 12, I was also studying that.
Yeah.
So by the time I got to practicing some psychology, even though I didn't know it, I had learned a lot of different stuff in addition to being on the street and learning things from them old heads that was teaching me their crafts. A lot of, you know, I'm honored for this opportunity, because of a lot of the things that I'm saying I haven't had the opportunity to express.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Except for maybe in the book, and even at that point, I couldn't give it all up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I got to the point that when I stopped using drugs, I really wanted to know what was wrong with me. I wanted to know, why did I use drugs the way that I use drugs?
Yes, sir.
Why couldn't I stop? I practiced active addiction for 25 years. During that period of time, I was not on the street a whole year.
You back. We're back.
At any given time. So one of the things I had to look at when I did stop is what was wrong with me. You know, what was wrong with me? They talking about it's a disease, they talking about a sickness, and I had to look at myself and figure out what was wrong. The fail-safe idea of a fail-safe didn't come till years later. But I knew that I was angry. I knew that I had what is called resentment. But I still didn't totally understand it.
Yes, sir.
I knew that anger is healthy, you know, but I had got to a point that I didn't know what to do with my anger. Instead of managing my anger and diffusing it, I stuffed it and held on to it.
Did you say anger is healthy?
Yeah, anger is a healthy emotion. I
Okay.
mean, it's a baseline. It's a baseline it's a warning to let you know that something is wrong. You either can manage the anger,
Yeah.
and do something with it, diffuse it, or you could hold on to it, and it becomes a resentment.
Right.
And then it grows and
Yes, sir.
grows and
Yes, sir.
grows and grows. And what you were looking at when you looked at me at that time was a walking time bomb, because I was full of resentment. And I also understand that anger didn't start inside the other person. No matter what the other person did, I'm the one that made a decision on what I was going to do with it. Was I going to hold on to it? Was I going to manage it, let it go? Or what was I going to do with the anger? My studying showed me that I was self-destructive because I, at that point, didn't know how to let the anger go. And so now, what I'm going to do? You know what I'm gonna do? I know what the problem is. So I started identifying that same anger in me came from my thinking. Because everything starts with the power of thought.
Mm-hmm.
The spoken word is the thought energized.
Mm-hmm.
What you think about all day is what you become.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put it in you, it can't come out. And it can't come out if you don't put it in you.
Mm.
And as I understood that, then that meant that I needed to start putting something else inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
That model of what I call recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was going to some self-help groups and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things that I did is I turned the radio off and the TV off, meaning I refused to allow anything in my consciousness without my permission. That was for the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now, after that 2 years, when I turned it back on, the same things that I was listening to, like a Smokey Robinson love song and all of that, you know, it meant something different. It was more internal self-love than it was about me loving the girl. So I learned how to start practicing love for myself. You notice, if you ever see me, I always have my beads. Now, initially, my beads was because I practice Islam. My beads now are really reminders that I need to be focused on self-love. More than anything else. And I have a multitude of prayers and or affirmations that I use to make sure they bring me balance. And the balance is about loving self. The balance is not about anybody else. Of course, forgiveness is a self job. All forgiveness is self-forgiveness.
Yeah, let me ask you about this miseducated section.
Okay.
So when you say miseducated, and I want to tie this in a bit. So okay. There's this rumor on the street, and I hear it in the communities. I've been hearing it for years. Now, me as a person who's been academically trained for years, I mean a long time. I'm saying like the process took a long time. So not the destination. So I mean the process happened a long time ago going forward. It's kind of like what you're speaking to, right? The process started
generations before.
Yes. So, and even me, right, growing up in a household that was African centered, to me, when I look back over my life and I use myself as a case study as a result of my father and my mother's rearing, it protected me. I argue and I maintain that the African-centered education I received and also environments helped me, like a lotus, rise through the murky waters, like in ancient Egypt, right? Now, I'm using that as an example. I don't go too far out there, but nonetheless, you know, but so I posit that is a case example. I've also seen other case examples, but I've heard people, even in the Africans who practice African-centered thought, say things like African-centered thought has never done anything. I hear people, I mean, people who profess as being African-centered. I say, well, one, I know plenty of case studies, plus that is not in accord with the research that I've come across, that I've read, that I've added to my papers. And a lot of the people that you know, you've probably come in contact with, and you've probably worked with and done things with, from Dr. Gregory to, I'm not sure if you did anything with PLC or and I know you did things with Ross Ford and all of them, like all y'all did like phenomenal work, right? And that goes back to earlier, like some of the, I'm going to say revolutionary practices, because I also have another question. I'm sorry. It's kind of like so much here. So people who say African-centered approaches don't work. Then it has me also thinking about those approaches y'all was doing when y'all was going into the community. And I'm just wondering, when you look back over that, how do you gauge this African-centered approach community-wise? And also, how do you gauge this African-centered approach, or whatever approach it is, as it pertains to you and yourself?
Okay, that's a giant-sized question. I don't know if we'll have enough time for all of that to be answered. But what I will say, that a lot of people that identify themselves as doing African-centered work at that point were incorporating so much European ideology and technique that it moved it away from being African-centered.
Yes, sir.
That's part of the fail-safe. That's part of the fail-safe. Is instead of us doing our best to become aligned with each other, we wanted to do individuals, and a lot of those leaders and some of the names that you mentioned and many more are just as guilty of that, because we wanted to not necessarily get together as a group and become one so we could advance our people together. We wanted to specialize and be the one. And a lot of times, because of just that doing your own thing mentality and ideology that came out of the 70s and more money and integration, is we were more separate than we were unified. And that right there is another part of the fail-safe. It's another part of the disunity. I've seen so many people get grants, start dynamic programs that were started in the penitentiary and came on the street and doing marvelous work. But then because they were getting money and they were doing their own thing and being individualized, they ended up being so individual that they became unaligned with the community.
Yeah, they can't do what with the community?
Became unaligned. Instead of being aligned, they were unaligned with the community and themselves.
Disconnected, and
because of that thing that I said earlier, the anger, the self-hatred, the resentment. See, everybody gets angry. But if you don't understand that you have to do something with the anger instead of hold on to it, because when you hold on to it, it grows and becomes resentment, and resentment is self-hatred, and self-destructive behavior. If you don't do something with it, you implode instead of grow. And a lot of our leaders, a lot of my brothers, a lot of our sisters, a lot of our people did that and are still doing that today.
Yeah,
you can see that with a lot of the arguments that go on with each other. We'll argue with each other. We will argue with ourselves so much that we argue with each other.
We argue with ourselves so much that we argue with each other.
That's right.
Tell me more about that.
Self-destructive behavior, self-destructive thinking, the fail-safe. Here it is. I know that I need to pick up arms, and arms could be a book, arms could be a pencil, arms could be anything that's going to advance us as a people and towards our sovereignty. But what happens, I refuse to pick it up. I make an excuse, which makes me angry with myself because there's something that I know that I need to do to advance myself and others, but I refuse to.
Yeah.
And the more angry I become with myself, the more self-destructive I become, because that's what my thinking is. And that happens over and over and over and over and over and over to so many of us.
Right.
If you sit down and talk to us individually / and collectively, we'll come up so angry, and you start talking about forgiveness. Somebody, oh, I ain't forgiving nobody. But I say, look, I ain't asked you to forgive anybody. I asked you to forgive yourself. Forgive myself? What you mean? I don't need to forgive myself. I said, well, who's in your mind right now? Who is the person in your mind that's rehearsing all of that negative, angry stuff? Who is the person? Of course, they look at me like I'm crazy then because they can't figure that out. Well, I help them. I let them know that they are the person. They are the ones that's rehearsing the thoughts repetitiously over and over and over. Whatever the angry thoughts are, they're the ones that's rehearsing it over. And until you learn how to forgive yourself for rehearsing the thoughts over and over. You don't have to forgive yourself for anything else, because you're the one that's your own worst enemy. You are the one rehearsing your thoughts. So forgive yourself for rehearsing the thoughts. Stop rehearsing the thoughts. Put something in their place. Put some self-love affirmations in their place. And once we learn that we need to start loving ourselves, then we'll dissolve that fail-safe.
How does that, and what you're saying, just kind of like flesh this out a bit. How does that look today when we consider us? Because it sounds like you're saying that the fail-safe kicked in for many of us, and it's still kicking in for many of us. How do we deconstruct that fail-safe in this type of case as it pertains to our movement work?
First, we have to acknowledge that it exists.
Yes, sir.
See, that's the first step in anything. First, you have to acknowledge that you have a problem or challenge in that area. Because if you don't acknowledge it, then you can't get no help because it don't exist for you.
Yes, sir.
So the first thing is you have to acknowledge that that challenge exists for you. And there's not anyone on the planet that don't get angry.
Yeah.
And 99.9% of us on the planet that get angry hold on to it. We don't resolve it. We don't let it go. In fact, we rehearse it over to a point it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it becomes so self-destructive that we implode.
Yeah, you know what's so crazy? When I went to Egypt, right? And I saw like it was, I think it was the boat, and Set was on the Set and Heru was on the boat, you know, this image. And then Heru, I think is the elder Heru, he has a spear, and it's like this little hippopotamus type of crocodile type of creature, which represents Set, and he's stabbing Set. And what happens is more, as much as he stabs Set, Set keeps growing. Set keeps growing. And then I think the moral of the story is that basically you can't kill that Set in you. You have to shackle it down. I think they said put a chain on it because in fact, you need it. In fact, that's what my father's always taught me. You need this both, this yin and this yang. You need this both aspects of you, you know, all that type of thing. What do you say to that, Baba?
Hey, I'm in 100% agreement, bro, because see, one of the things that I do is I acknowledge my anger. I acknowledge my fear. I acknowledge my shame. I acknowledge my guilt. I acknowledge all of that. But when it comes up, I make sure in my acknowledgement, I don't think on it as it controlling me. I think on it as it's being diffused inside of me with love. Because once it comes up, I'm loving me. So ain't no room for nothing else but self-love. Now, so that means it dissolves the anger. It dissolves the anger inside of me.
What's that self-love look like?
Well, for me, one of the most simplest ways it look like not shooting no dope. One is for me. It also looks like being a father to my daughters and a grandfather and a brother to my brothers. You know, one of the most wonderful things in the world, I walk down the street, right, and I see a brother and I say, "What's up, bro?" And throw him all the way off guard. And he look up and say, "Oh yeah, hey man, you know, hey, just giving him that kind word helps to put him in a different place." And we don't do that enough. We don't do that enough. We run from our youth because we're scared of them. You know, we see our brothers and sisters in a challenging disposition, and we won't give them a kind word. So how it looks to me is when I wake up 5:30 in the morning, sometimes, whatever the time I wake up, I turn, I get it. That's my tape recorder. It wasn't taping recording right now, but I wake up, and because of the affirmations and breathing exercises that I have recorded on it, I turn that on, and that puts me back to sleep. And some of the affirmations just say, "Baba, I love you. Baba, I love you. Baba, I love you." See, what you think about all day is what you become. If you don't put it in you, it can't come out of you. So I make sure with the conscious moments that I have, I am consistently reprogramming my thinking with affirmations of positivity and self-love and warrior consciousness. With consistency. There's not a day that goes by in the past 10 years that I don't do that.
You know, I find that in the work, no matter wherever I find myself in the work, many times I find that from my standpoint, that we're not balanced. I'm saying some of us are more balanced than others. I don't like to say, well, I'm not speaking about individuals. I'm speaking about us as a collective in a sense. And I find that I find people who speak about the self-love, as you just spoke about, and then they find it difficult to speak about that warrior consciousness. And then I find there's people who speak about the warrior consciousness, and they think that, and they might say self-love, but they're not really dealing with it. So tell me what, because I mean, I'm looking at this chapter that I definitely want to get into. And it's a killer chapter, right? And it's the need for African-centered thinking, right? Powerful chapter, right? You know, the whole miseducation piece, but I definitely want to get that. So what I see is like, it's like, I don't know. Look, I just want to keep it a buck. You are a mental health professional.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see in our community, like in short, because I'm going to try to take the transition, but what do you see hindering us in our movements today, as far as from a psychological, therapeutic standpoint, and also what do you see our strengths as?
Okay, that's a good one. But actually, I've actually said what I've seen is hindering us.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Self-destructive thinking. Our self-destruct, that fail-safe, that resentment hold that we have on ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't know what to do with our anger.
Mm-hmm.
We let it grow. We embrace our anger and it becomes a resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I know that when you have a resentment, it does more harm to you than it does the person that you had a resentment
Yes,
on.
sir.
So the main thing that I see is we have been programmed
Mm-hmm.
for self-destructive thinking and self-destructive behavior through not knowing how to manage our anger, allowing it to turn into resentment, not knowing how to practice self-love through self-forgiveness.
Yes, sir.
Now, all of the many years of education in school that I've done, that's the bottom line. If we ever can get to the point to learn that we need to start forgiving ourselves and loving ourselves with warrior consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
then we can get rid of the fail-safe.
What's warrior consciousness?
Warrior, hey man. Well, physically, when I walk outside my door, I don't go outside my door with house shoes on.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you I carry all sorts of weapons, but I don't go outside my door unprepared for battle. And I don't know where the battle may come from.
So what you saying? You're not going to tell me about the weapons that you do carry? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not going to tell you about the weapons that I have carried. And if need be, I'll pick up again.
Okay.
Yes, and warrior consciousness, man, is, you know, one of the first things I did when I came in here is I had the opportunity to look at your library.
Mm-hmm,
And my heart started beating real fast because I say, man, this brother got the same book. So I know where his consciousness has to be, because if you've been doing that type of reading, there are some elements of us that most people don't understand exist. You know, warrior consciousness is knowing who your enemy is. Today, my first enemy is me. If I don't understand it. So the first person I have to look at is me. That's why I practice self-forgiveness and self-love. That's why I understand that if I get angry about anything and anybody and I don't do my best to dissolve it, that can destroy me more than it can destroy them.
Yeah, that's real talk. And you know, what I find out is that is a very difficult and risky thing for people who have not prepared themselves to do so. Because we that fail-safe has us thinking that we're safer in holding on to that resentment, right? It has us feeling safer when because a lot of us have not learned, and you can, you know, you like, a lot of us have, from my standpoint, a lot of us have not learned, I forgot what's going, but we have not learned how to balance ourselves again in knowing that I can be safe. Okay, let me say this. I want to say it this way, that we don't know how to set appropriate boundaries or limits unless we're angry. We don't. So the thing is, holding on to being resentful or having resentment gives us this protective covering that we just shut people out in a sense, but it doesn't do anything for our relationships. In fact, we just cut each other off. We don't want. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, it's gonna seem like I'm going away from what you're saying, but I'm not. I'm giving another example of how it needs to be addressed, or can be addressed, or can be identified.
Yes, sir.
There's a difference between truth and honesty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, the truth is the utterance of a fact. Honesty is the motives in which I tell the truth
Mm-hmm.
or the lie. See, I can tell the truth and not be honest with you
Yeah.
because my motives
Mm-hmm.
for you are not good.
Mm.
And see, a lot of times we're not honest with ourselves. We do not tell ourselves the truth about what our motives are for particular deeds and or thoughts and or things that we do and have.
Absolutely.
And once we learn that, see, that's a level of truth that we have to get to. And I like to think that that's one of the things that distinguishes me why people don't necessarily understand what I'm thinking, because I'm looking at the motives. I'm not looking at what you're saying and doing. I'm looking at your motives behind it. And most of our motives are self-centered and self-destructive and more personal centered than they are humanity centered.
Now, hold on. See, now look, when you guys, you African centered, Pan-Africanist, anti-white. No, I don't know. you know. I just be like, when y'all say humanity, I just have this question, because look, I used to have this question when I was younger in these spaces, and when y'all say humanity, does that include everybody?
When I say humanity, I'm talking about the people that are aligned with the earth and know that they are aligned with the earth.
So
that can be white folks if they know that they align with the earth. But that's not who I'm looking at primarily.
Okay.
I'm not going to exclude them in that instance, but I'm not necessarily looking at them first. I'm looking at us first. I'm looking at African people of African ascent.
Can I go stronger?
Please.
I mean, because I know you're a mental health
student also, so I want to I'm learning too, brother.
Okay, but look. Today, I want to be the one with the questions.
Come on with it. Right.
No, but yeah, we can do the thing back and forth. But this question, I just want to know from a mental health professional, because now you said that those who align with the earth, how does that look when you think about some of these other identity categories?
Oh man. They're confused. And again, I go back to the same thing, because they're not honest with themselves and they're still practicing self-destructive thinking and behavior, then they are not aligned with the earth. It's like they need to get a grounding mat.
A grounding mat?
Yeah, a grounding mat. Like when you grounded with the earth and hugging a tree. Well, most of the time they wear shoes and don't let their bare feet hit the earth so they can be aligned with the earth. They need a grounding mat. They need to buy them a grounding mat or get a grounding sheet so they can be aligned.
Can you work with them?
I can work with, I believe I can work with anybody. My experience have showed me that. I have worked with people that I didn't like and was able to help them. So I can't speak for everybody.
What about religions? And of course, I think maybe you picked up when I was talking about sexuality. I'm speaking about religion. I'm speaking about, all these different identity categories that we tend to find, especially in Pan-African spaces, right?
Well, I can tell you that the same thing I just said still applies. I have been able to work with all of the different identities that are mentioned in between the lines and the spaces that you just did, and been able to have positive successes with them. And tell me, and that's challenging, but I have to move me all the way out the way. My personal beliefs, my personal ideologies.
Does it impact your, like, maybe I'm not sure. What do you think about Pan-Africanism? Does it impact your Pan-Africanist ideology? Or
yeah, man. Yeah. Because, well, I'm gonna tell you the idea of it is, if you see me if you see me, right, or some of the other people that we know see me working with one of them people, then I gotta go and explain to them what I'm doing. Make sure that they can understand. And they may never understand. But the task that I got from the universe is not the task that they got from the universe. So when those people come to me and I have opportunity to work with them, I work with them. And yes, I am challenged with that because there's a part of me that say, man, I'm practicing treason. And and then I go through all of those different self-conversations, but at the end of the line, I love myself and forgive myself. So I'm not holding on to that thought.
Now, one of the things my students often talk about is this idea that, and I also heard, I don't know if you heard of Cleo Monago, right?
Okay.
And I heard him say something on a broadcast with Davon Love of Leaders of Beautiful Struggle. And he said the fact that we don't give space to these different identities, that they ultimately just turn to white supremacy. They ultimately turn to work with, like, for example, you have people who participate in certain sexual orientations, right? But that does not mean that they have to participate in LGBTQ plus type of politics.
Right. So
in essence, what he's saying is they will go towards that if they feel shut out in their own community.
Wow, man, that's true. That's true. I mean, I've seen that I was at the health department during the AIDS crisis. In fact, I was one of the first people to man the AIDS hotline during the crisis. And I was doing groups within that population. And when the focus stopped being on them and them getting the support, they ended up becoming more, I don't want to say Europeanized, but European politics more than they were helping their own and each other during that period of time of crisis.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you said that, because I hadn't thought about that until you just asked that. I hadn't thought about that, because when I look at it, they ultimately needed the support the way we need the support. And usually they identified with our challenges in order to get the support. But once they get the support, it's either the politics themselves push them towards, or they themselves have it in them to go towards that political structure that goes against sovereignty.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the care and you allowing me to ask these questions, because these questions are difficult. And it's even real, like for me, these are questions that come up daily because I teach in academia. And I see that lots of times I'm teaching Africans, I'm an African-centered teacher, and they know it. And they know I say I'm for coming together of FBA and ADOS, or all the confused folk, all the confused identities. I mean, bringing together Black Americans or African Americans with Caribbean Americans, with our diaspora in general, right? And the continent and all that. But then it's this questions typically come up due to their training. But ultimately is that they felt like they didn't have a place. So they feel like divided in a sense. So I mean, it's real. I think personally that we have to have these conversations whether or not we truly, because look, even some of the events, some of the things I've been participating with in recently, even around Pan-African struggle, recently, there's these conversations that's going on behind the scenes that's talking about religion, that's talking about sexuality. Some people feel shut out about religion. Some people feel shut out about sexuality, and all these type of things. And I think that we have to find a way to be able to sit with people. And honestly, that's becoming a mental health practitioner in some ways forced me, I'm going to say forced me in this case, to have to sit down with people with a variety of ideas of how to exist. And it also, in many ways, just to be real frank, it humanized so many people for me. I'm talking about, I saw like, for example, I'll be real honest with you. Probably before I became a therapist, I didn't think white people probably had I don't know if I really believe this or not, but you couldn't have told me that they didn't have a soul. Maybe you could have. Maybe I figured that out before then. But the reality is, when I said, I probably thought they had a soul. But probably what happened was, I didn't understand their hurt. I didn't get to see their hurt. I didn't, because I'm from Baltimore, and I didn't really, when I went to school with them, I saw that they came from all type of dysfunctional homes, and they had all types of, their father was beating on them, and their mother was getting beat up, and their mother and father was drunk, even if they lived in these so-called enclaves of white America. And then to have somebody sit there before you, and they white, and they telling you this story, but even more so with even people with sexuality. And I'm saying this because I think about Dr. Patricia Newton, and I think about her, and she talks about these people and how they've told her stories about their sexuality. And I remember a young man coming to me, and I swear, like, I didn't know what to do with this young man. I swear I didn't. He was twerking. he was twerking and doing all types of stuff at Job Corps, getting in all types of trouble, and saying people doing stuff to him. I had to sit him down and say, look, you don't need to be doing all this. Like, for real. And I'm just giving you my technique. In order for me to fairly assess this, I had to think about, I don't want to be biased to him due to his identity. But at the same time, would I tell anybody this? I would tell a sister not to do this. I would tell a brother not to do this. I would tell, look, young lady, why would you do this? Young man, why would you do this? So, like, for example, if you're doing things that's sexual and inappropriate, no matter what your sexuality is, it's just inappropriate. No matter what it is, you're just going to be looking for attention that is unnecessary, then blaming. So what I'm saying, I had to do a lot of framing and compartmentalizing and looking at other things to make sure my biases weren't creeping in, or at least to hold them back. But also in the process, I saw a human being.
What I'm doing now professionally is I am the quality assurance monitor for Each One Teach One Community Health. Each One Teach One Community Health is one of the only Black programs that's doing substance use work, SUD work, in high schools. So we have an inpatient and an outpatient program. And the population that you just described, I had an actual experience in dealing directly with one of them.
One of them?
Well, that's all I want to talk about. That's the only thing I'm saying at this moment.
Okay.
It's because I've had that experience.
Oh, one of the populations you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
One of the people that I provide services for.
Okay, got you. Okay.
Same experiences. And the only thing that I could do was listen and make sure that I let them know that some behavior that you do is wrong, regardless of where you're at.
Yeah.
It's not right. If you coming in a school dressed with half your clothes on, that's not right, whether you gay or straight.
Right.
It just ain't right.
Right.
And you have to look at that.
Right.
Now, going back, what gave me is I happened to be fortunate to be on some of the front lines when they first started talking about diversity 20, 30, 40 years ago. And we some of the first diversity groups that we were actually participating in, where everybody that had their own identity was coming up telling us how they wanted to be treated. So I had the opportunity to be a part of that during those different times. So it was interesting. And mind you, I'm a brother. I'm frontline on the hood.
Yeah.
But I'm also a mental health professional.
Yes, sir.
So being a mental health professional, particularly at that time, studying mostly white folks and Western medicine techniques, I didn't have as much savvy then as I do today. But I was also a student, so I learned who they were.
Yes.
And in the process, learned who I am and how to treat them.
So. And one of your colleagues, and I think one of your colleagues, Dr. Henry Gregory, I asked him a similar question about some of these politics, because these will be real questions. Like, one of the questions I asked him was, what is his, because he mentions things in these roundabout type of ways. You say, yeah, he's real good at saying things, and like, what did he just
esoteric?
Say it again.
Esoteric,
and then he like, hold it, he just punched me, but so what he said was, one day he was doing a training and he was saying, like, I think we go too far. He was like, we go too far sometimes, even with with all the identity politics and the I forgot what but it had to do with like the acronyms and all those type of things. Like, we go too far. So
that's where the balance comes in.
That's where
the balance comes in.
I'm making a segue. So that's it. So that balance, right? And he says, we go too far. And then I said, so what do you mean? And he says, well, I'm 70-something years old. He says, if you tell me that your name is, that you identify as a they or a zer or a something, please give me some patience. I would try to respect you how you want to be identified, but in other words, you got to keep in mind, I have 70-something years of identifying people in a different way. So, and then that's when you go too far, or like in some things, like these whole ideas of these underage people who are making these major drastic sexual modifications to their body at younger ages and all that. And a lot of that is, to me, it goes back to what you spoke about earlier, resentment. With so much so that you have adults who are so hurt and felt shut out that now they're trying to usher in another generation of younger people to say, make the change, because if I would have made this change, I wouldn't be experiencing the hurt and the pain, although the research doesn't always line up with that.
Without a doubt. We want to, there is, where did this behavior come from anyway? Where did it first recorded at? And how come they kept pushing this behavior to be on the forefront of our society?
And in a lot of times it's like, yeah, it's just a major, this is just one of the conversations. I think this is a conversation to kind of like the needs, just in general. This is a conversation that I think that we need to continue to have, because it's real, and not just this conversation around sexuality or gender identity, or it's around even gender politics as it pertains to men and women. The gender politics as it pertains to like even like, for example, like black men are now saying that, look, this is what happened to us, and now the sister's been doing it for a while, and then the whole liberal feminism. And this is my estimation. If it does not have an African-centered analysis, it's often going to come up short. That is my
within the context of African-centered psychology.
Just in what we in psychology, in our political, gender, culture, economic, whatever it is,
which on the ideology of African-centeredness, I agree, because race first is race first, but that don't mean that race first is only race.
Go ahead.
It doesn't mean that I only see one race, because I am a race first activist. And what that means is anybody that look like me with the tone skin that I have, race first, I'm working towards helping you first, period.
Right, absolutely.
However, that don't mean that's the only person I'm going to help.
Right. And and I look at it I look at it that way, but I also look at it as when I consider these different identity categories. When I consider male, sexuality, ableism, whatever it is, I consider the racial issue and the current environment that we find ourselves in as the ultimate issue. And it's the binding, I guess I would say, mechanism that keeps us together. Because if we don't put race first, what happens is we begin to put gender first, male versus female, sexuality, gay versus straight. We put a class, we put all these other things first if we don't look at it from a race. And when I say cultural or African-centered perspective, what I mean is essentially what I'm talking about is we're not looking at things through a cultural lens. And what I mean by that is you talk about it in your book. You speak to this idea of Mayat and culture in a sense, and how Mayat and African-centered principles tell us how we engage with one another. And that's what I mean. I mean, if, like, for me, I could never at this point in the way that I see things, that everybody just operates as individuals. I can't get with anarchy. Right. I can't get with the idea that there's no hierarchy. And when I mean hierarchy, I mean that, again, a natural hierarchy, you as my elder, right? A natural hierarchy. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody's an elder either. You got what I'm saying? Just because of age. You know what I mean? But and it doesn't mean that it's uncontested or there's no need for consensus or any of that type of thing. But what I'm saying is that it tells us how we engage with one another. It tells us it gives us a lens to, in a worldview, to look at our reality. Because when it's void culture, when you speak about race first, I'm not sure if I'm for Black people. Yeah, that's being Black. Now, for other people, that's being whatever they are.
Right.
So what I mean is, I'm talking about something past race. I'm talking about that thing that has shown scientifically to help in healing people. Because one of the things I see in the research, Baba, is that you can have all these different political orientations, kill whitey, these overthrow the government, all these type of things. The white man has done this to me. Black people have done this to me. Straight people have done this to me. Men or women have done this to me. But when it lacks a cultural analysis, you tend to suffer from greater levels of depression, greater levels of anxiety, greater levels of trauma. And hence, what I'm going to argue is that your lens isn't really clear, that your body is not really stable, that you really aren't really seeing things from the most healthiest vantage point, because the fail-safe has kicked in.
Right. Which also says that you're practicing self-destructive thinking based on you rehearsing some negative ideologies over in your head over and over and over.
Yes, sir.
And over and over. And it's more self-destructive to you than anything else. And you can't get beyond that. Even though you want to love, you can't get beyond the self-destructive thinking and behavior, which sets up the fail-safe.
Yes, sir.
Then you're stuck and wonder why you can't be successful and why you can't succeed in any kind of way. Is because you're still stuck and you're practicing self-destructive thinking and self-destructive behavior. And it has to come to a point that I realize that, and I learned that, and learn how to practice self-love. See, self-love is a practice. It's not just an ideology. If you're not practicing it on a daily basis with repetition, then you 9 times out of 10, you are setting yourself up for the fail-safe to implode you.
You say in your book in chapter 4, you say, you quote someone, Uchina.
Yeah, I got that book from you. I didn't get the book personally from you, but you were somewhere and you had that book.
Oh, really?
And I said, I don't have that book.
Okay.
And I got that. Yeah, I got that. Right. Okay. Go ahead. Excuse me.
Okay. And you say religion is linked to a book.
There you go.
Spirituality is linked to the biosphere.
Yeah.
All of its life forms and the animated universe. That's spirituality. The whole universe is an open, holy book for all to observe, experience, and interpret within the range of his or her God-given genetic potential. Religion reasons about the supernatural, where spirituality is the supernatural. Religion seeks money. Spirituality seeks harmony with the universal divine oneness. Ada, Uchina, Omun. That's in your book.
Yeah, I use that quote because it spoke to one of the first pieces that I wrote, and that I actually wrote a workbook about the disease of addiction. And I looked at the disease of addiction, and defining the disease of addiction is more than one perspective. I looked at the perspective, a religious perspective, a spiritual perspective, and a clinical perspective. The religious perspective always come out of wherever the book is. Always come out. The simplicity of defining that, if you say a religious perspective from Christianity, the book is the Bible and it talks about sin. Bam. Addiction is sin. Using anything outside, using anything in place of God is sin. Okay. Spirituality is best defined in the 12-step movement. The 12-step movement, in their process, they said this is not a religion. This is spiritual concepts. And when we're talking about spiritual concept, you could believe in anything you want to believe in. Anything that you want to believe in that gives you power as a higher power that will give you strength to move forward. But our profession is medical/clinical. And in that you have 6 characteristics that has to be adhered to when you're doing a diagnosis in order for a person to be diagnosed with the disease of addiction. Etiology, signs, symptoms, cause, prognosis, and treatment. Yeah. And that right there helps. That when I read that particular thing in that book, that came back to me from what I wrote to help understand what was going on with me. Because when I first went to treatment, the people, the counselors was religious. They were religious, and they were telling me that if you do with God, you can do anything. Okay. But I couldn't stop using, so that wasn't true as far as I was concerned. It didn't become clear until I had all 3 concepts, and I understand that I had the disease of addiction with more than one definition. So it wasn't just one way of looking at me. I had to look at me from multitudes of perspectives and aspects in order to be able to treat all of them differently. Which is one of the reasons why I am the person that I am today, because I was able to identify that.
So I'm in chapter 4, and it's such a powerful chapter. I remember, and it was my honor, you asked me to come and speak with the what's the title now? I can't.
Black Awakening
movement.
Yes, Black Awakening movement.
So it was an honor of coming there, and I think I told you. I think I said, which I said, you sure you? I think I said something to you. I do my thing my way,
right?
And I said, I'm a different type of person. When I talk, it's going to probably have a person after they're going to be thinking probably for days after they finish talking to me, right? Like, oh shit, what is it? Did it feel good? Did it not feel? I don't know what happened there. You know, I mean, that's what kind of like. I don't always look for applauses.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? I like to leave things on people, and I'm very uncomfortable with. I mean, I'm very comfortable with being in spaces where others are uncomfortable.
Okay, I saw that.
You saw that?
I saw that.
You say you did well. Hold on, I gotta get that. Okay, you saw that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Remember when you first started off, you identified me. I'm a person that I pay attention to everything and everybody. I am a warrior.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. So, okay, you know, so yeah, I'm very comfortable in sitting in the stuff, right? And I think that is needed in these spaces, right?
Without a doubt, man. If you don't have an ideology that's going to have people to think, then what good are you doing them? They have to be able to think, because they're only going to know one truth unless you push them to make sure they can see another. And that other truth that they may know may be the truth that's actually awakening them to do something that's great in them.
So before we get out of here, I do want to at some point want to tie all this back in from the period of time where you started in the type of mental warfare and miseducation that was going on then, and how it looks today, similarly or dissimilarly, or how it's morphed, and even including specifically or explicitly these ideas around these other identities that sprang up, like ADOS and FBA. But I want to go back into this African. You about to say something?
No, go ahead.
This African-centered chapter, African-centered thinking, and this is what you told me. You told me that what you just. My approach when I was part of the Black Reawakening conversation, you said that's the fail-safe. You said I just wrote a whole book on it, and because I was telling you I'm writing a book. So when I got to this particular chapter, I said, "Oh, this particular chapter is definitely." I mean, in fact, all the things I've read thus far. Your story is your story, right, with the same process.
Exactly.
Your story is my story with the same process. You dig what I'm saying? I'm talking about all the way to the principles that you use, all the way to what we found in what's the book called? I know Baba Browder often speaks about it too. The
Tony Browder's wow.
It's the control of action, devotion to one's purpose, faith in master's ability, and you see that in, what's the name of that book?
That's not necessarily Browder's book. That comes from
what's the book?
The book of
George.
Well, they called it the Book of the Dead, but it also comes out of George G. Wallace's Stolen Legacy.
Yeah, Stolen Legacy. Yes,
right.
Yes, Stolen Legacy. That's what I'm looking for. So yeah, and I know that Anthony Browder tends to utilize that a lot,
without a doubt,
right? And even it's in his more recent book as well.
Yeah, well, his first book, his recent book, and pretty much all his books, because that particular philosophy comes out. The Greeks got
George M. James.
The Greeks got credit for it, but through George M. James, we found out that it was the Kemet. It was Egyptology. It was coming directly from Kemet. And that's always one of my questions, but my questions is in the documentation and the translation of that, those 42 premises where they always spoke in the negative, but I don't want to get into that. We're going to get to that another time. We can't get to it right this moment.
Yes, sir.
But excuse me. Go ahead.
So you wrote in your book, you say, I've come to understand that Mayat is not just passive existence, but it's about active engagement with the world. It's a philosophy based on actions. What the ancient texts call art.
My art. Yeah, art. Go ahead.
What the ancients call art. Our actions they believe leave impressions on our unconscious minds, shaping our desires and ultimately our very personalities. I mean, that's a lot there.
Fail-safe.
Fail-safe?
Yeah. If Pope Nicholas and Pope Alexander, when they sent the so-called explorers, their pirates, to go into African lands and black lands to enslave them and take their resources, they went in there and Christianized them. They went in there with a message for them to be oppressed. Back in the 1500s, that is identified today in our actions this many generations later. Now, on the other hand of it, is you and I having this conversation.
Yes, sir.
Is my art, because it's balance. It's like we are inside of us, we're facilitating an action of balance and creativity at this moment as we're speaking to each other. And the energy that's going out, that anybody that's listening to us can hear it and feel it.
I'm going to be real honest with you. This is one of my favorite conversations thus far. And it's definitely hitting on some cylinders. Now, y'all make sure though, because I know we like all the spicy stuff, right? Y'all make sure y'all get the thumbs up, likes up, the share, you know, and also share our dear Baba's book. Hold on, I gotta put it in the frame. Okay, yeah, I got yeah. Deconstructing the Fail-Safe. Deconstructing the Fail-Safe. The Fail-Safe. Make sure y'all get his book. How can they find the book, Baba?
Well, they could come here to get it. There are copies here. There are copies on Amazon. There are copies at everyone's place. And you can contact me directly.
How can they contact you?
If you use Facebook or Instagram, you could go to Baba Khalil-Bey at gmail.com.
Okay. So I appreciate that. So I'm going to read it again. I'm a recursive person. So, you know.
Repetition.
Yeah. I've come to understand that Maya is not just about passive existence, but about active engagement with the world. It's a philosophy based on actions, what the ancient texts call art. Our actions, they believed, leave impressions. Hold up. Believed, leave impressions on our unconscious mind. Left impressions on our unconscious mind, shaping our desires. This is where I want to get to. That there's things that are shaping our impressions on our unconscious minds and shaping, hence, our desires and ultimately our very personalities. And when I think about that, and I like to think of personality, and you can, you know, expound on it, that personality essentially is wrapped up in there as well. The way that you see and think about things, how they impact you on an emotional, affective level, and then hence how you act these things out. And so what I'm getting from here is that we must be intentional and active and balanced in practicing Mayat. I don't know. I mean, there must be like a constant.
It is. The practice of my art is the repetition of the 42 admonitions. I've changed them to affirmations instead of negative sayings. I don't like saying things in the negative. But also, I want to say that we duplicate the emotional environment that we grow up in. And if we understand the emotional environment, we also understand that that's just not physical, that's generational. That's generational. So we duplicate that. And then in our activities, we produce that. And that's psychic. That's psychic. The brain never forgets anything unless it's damaged, but it never forgets anything. It's like just right like now, if I say Humpty Dumpty sat
on the wall.
And okay, you have young children, but when the last time you heard that? If I go through
no, I didn't do anything with my children.
Okay,
that's first grade, that's kindergarten.
Okay, so that's been 4 decades pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means that you have been programmed with that, and all I had to do was trigger it.
Come on, Baba. Don't say I'm programmed. Come on, Baba.
Well,
Come on, Baba.
You are. And me too.
Hey, not me. No, mess with you.
And all it has to do is be triggered. So when we understand that rule applies there, then we intentionally reprogram ourselves because the same rule applies. So if I repeat positive thoughts like the 42 affirmations over and over, and I have been doing that for at least the past 5 years, almost every night, then that means that that's the type of energy that's going to come out of me on some level or another. It's not perfect because physics tell me it takes 10 positive strokes to balance 1 negative, or 11 strokes to give you 1 ahead. So that means I have to do things 10 times or 11 times or 20 times as much in order for it to take root and grow. My art is balance.
So my art is balance. And I appreciate it because I think a lot of times we are in what I have kind of like utilizing my Ngia theory, philosophy, counseling model is this idea of overcorrection. And again, that goes back to some things I said earlier. I tend to see us just overcorrect. And many times if I think about overcorrect, we be doing too much. Like we be going too far. We be like, and so now that thinking about it, and like as I speak to you, one of the simple examples I can give is that we overreact. And we really overreact when we confront something we are unfamiliar with
or afraid of.
And that's what I'm talking about. And afraid of. And I'm saying that as a people, I think it's essential that we sit down and understand that people aren't as dangerous as we think they are.
Wow.
We are fearful that, like, for example, FBA is a fear-based campaign from my estimation. ADOS is a fear-based campaign. Those of us who can't sit down with people with different identity categories, we think some stuff gonna rub off on us. Like, we're very fearful.
So it's not their fear, it's our fears that we have to contend with.
Talk about it.
Well, that's the simplicity.
That's
simplicity.
It's not our fear.
Our fears.
It's not their fears.
If you're saying something that I disagree with, and I won't allow you to truly explain exactly what you're saying without me hearing you, am I afraid of hearing you, or am I afraid of hearing me? So, fear. I mean, when we start rehearsing something over in our head, particularly negative, over and 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 over, that's based on something that we become afraid of. Resentment. It grows. Resentment is the number one problem. We rehearse negative stuff over and over and over and over and over in our head, and it grows.
Right. So I think it's about that grounding that is needed, that balancing that is needed, that some level of feeling secure. I think the more we feel secure in ourselves, the more we can engage with others.
Yeah, I'll say it another way. The more that I am able to be honest with myself and identify my exact motives for my actions and thinking, the more I grow and the more I learn to love myself and be trusting of others. Or not necessarily trusting, but be open to others' ideologies.
So here you put, as a student of ancient wisdom, I realized that embodying Mayat is about aligning oneself with the universe's rhythms, understanding and finding your purpose in life. We do Mayat by practice. In African tradition, to learn is to do, and to do is to know. Thus, we know by doing. Anything to that?
Well, I don't think it could be any more simpler than that.
I agree.
And the funny thing about it is, my brother told me that many decades ago, but only in the past 2 decades have I truly been able to understand it. So there were a lot of things that I knew intellectually and a lot of things that I learned intellectually. But this thing they called eldership and age, and you could call it wisdom. I don't know if it's all of that. But I've grown in so many things that I have learned over the years in a whole different perspective and seeing them so clear. Like my aunt is, or better yet, my aunt be. And if you understand that my aunt be, then that's everything.
So family, I'm gonna put the link in the chat because we're not gonna be here much longer. I want if you want to come in and ask a question, give some affirmation, whatever it is for the Baba before we get up out of here pretty soon. Just come on up in there. So so you say on page 57, oh no, starting on page 57, you say practicing Mayat is a major step of Sankofa. But what does it mean to practice Mayat? It's about forming habits that align with our highest values. You go on to say these things, and these things spoke to me. These are bullet pointed. Always speaking truth. So what does it mean, in other words, to practice Mayat? I'm going back now. Let me start over. Practicing Mayat is a major step of Sankofa. But what does it mean to practice Mayat? That's the question. It's about forming habits that align with the highest virtues. That's what it says. 1, always speaking the truth. 2, exercising justice in all circumstances. 3, acting harmoniously to promote the highest good in relationships. I think I'm at 4, conducting ourselves in a way that brings order to our affairs and those around us. Let me say that again. Conducting ourselves in a way that brings order to our affairs and those around us. 5, living with balance and moderation. 6, respecting customs and property. 7, applying the principles of reciprocity in all our relationships. Let's get back to truth.
Man, let me tell you that I haven't gotten to the point that I have perfected any of that. But I do the best that I can. And I know that 3 years ago, I wasn't as good as I am today.
Yes, sir.
At practicing it and adhering to those principles. And the more that I practice it, practice makes improvement. Some people got a concept that practice perfection and all of that crap, but I never agree with that. Practice makes improvement. You could always better your best. Good, better, best. Never let it rest. Your good is better and your better is best. If excellence is possible, good is not enough. So you practice and you practice and you practice and you get better. And those principles in my art, I practice them to the best of my ability. I fall short a lot of times. I fall short because I still got anger inside of me that's built up to resentment that I'm still working on releasing. 73 years on the planet. I ain't got rid of it all, and I doubt if when I lay this physical body down, I will have gotten rid of it all. By then, no, I doubt it.
Hold on, are you serious?
Very serious. Very serious. But for the grace.
That's what. Hold on. That's what I got. Look, I thought in the next, was it 30 years? I will be on my way to.
Yeah. You know, man. When I was a teenager, at 14 years old, I came out for Wilson Street, where the temple was then, number 6.
Yeah.
And it was an old brother, man. He mustaches like mine and all of that. And I looked at him and said, when I get that age, I won't be like that. What I did is practice the right dietary codes. I practiced the right thinking behaviors. And today I am that brother.
Powerful, powerful. I appreciate that. So, yeah. So, something to shoot for.
Yeah. And that's my art also. That's practice. Practice dynamic behavior. Practice jewels, practice the right thing, practice the right ways. See, my art as a philosophy is ancient, and it's in every single spiritual element of things that we do. Different times, but my art is it.
I find it though that I've also over the years the same principles, trying my best to reach or adhere to them, reflect on them, see how it's showing up, and really in a way like really embrace them to my fullest. I'll be real honest. I ain't perfect more than anybody else can be perfect or less either. But I find that I strive to really, really put the thing into practice. I'm a person, like I'll be real honest. I'm a practicer. I'm a one who applies things, and it's not just in this realm; it's in other realms.
Well,
like
that's evident.
Yeah, go ahead, tell me more.
No, it's evident because I mean, watch your behavior, man. I didn't just meet you today, yesterday. I've known, so I've watched your behavior.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's evident that you practice, and you got disciplines. You got disciplines beyond a lot of people even know about.
Absolutely, that's
practice makes improvement,
and that's what I'm talking about. So now these principles that you're taught that you have here, they aren't always easy to do, even within the communities who say they agreed to them. Yeah. Because the first one, it says always speaking truth. Now you talking about, I understand that you're saying, first of all, you got to be true to thyself.
Right. And that means checking out your motives for every action that you do. Remember, I said earlier that truth and honesty are different, but most of us, we utter truths without looking at the motives behind our own personal utterance of them. I may be in front of a group of people sharing information, but my goal and my motives is because Susie Q up there or Segment up there in the first row, I want to get next to her.
Okay.
So here it is. I'm giving all of this truth up, but my motives is not right.
So I got an agenda. What's wrong with trying to get with Segment?
That's not the purpose that you're there.
Oh, that's not the purpose you're there.
The purpose that you're there is to make sure that you uplift your people.
Oh, we can't have dual purposes in the movement?
You can.
No, I'm messing with you. I follow you, Bob. I'm just messing with you.
I know. But even with that, there's always the bottom line. You got to stand still on your purpose and know what your motives are.
Yeah.
If you don't know what your own motives are, then you're lying to yourself.
No, real talk. I mean, and I get what you're saying. You know, I just wanted to have a little banter, but there's people a lot of us who struggle with, like, really, what do you say, being honest?
Yeah, because we don't know how. We don't know how, man. You know, one of the easiest thing, people come in there in my office, I say, do you love yourself? Yeah. And I'm using way out examples. Here it is, they faces hanging off because they still drinking wine and shooting dope, but they telling me they love themselves. So there's a contradiction there. So we have to make sure we dig to the bottom of that contradiction so they can see their own truth and perhaps admit to it. Then we're at a baseline so we can start for them to get some help. And I can tell you that I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I love to see a person be able to click and say, oh, Doc, you're right, man. Yeah. And then they start doing the work on themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's where me understanding that I had a fail-safe inside of me that was imploding me and prevented me from moving further. And I still work on it.
Yes, sir.
See, it's not that because I know it that it's gone, that it don't exist in me. The same people that program you and your generations program me and my generations. So some evidence of that programming is still there.
So let me do it like this. So now I spoke about the internal, right? The being true with yourself, being honest with yourself, which is always important. I talk to my clients all the time and I'm like, look, you're not lying to me. I mean, I know this ain't, you ain't lying to me. You lying to yourself. You're not being honest with yourself. You are lying to me because you don't even know you lying. And the reason why you're lying is because you believe this at times. You believe your own lie. Mm-hmm. The things that you refuse to look at. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're like, what are you saying? I'm like, no, you lying. First of all, you're lying to yourself.
They call that denial.
Denial, right? So now taking this more to an external, though, like a community collective type of approach. I'm just going to deal with this truth and honesty, right? I'm just going to deal with that one right now. I saw someone mention earlier in the chat. They said we have the best. The Dr. Daw has the best guest, so they're giving you a shout out there, Baba. Yeah, so they're giving you a shout out. Yeah, he said, Asante son, I had the camera off you, but but I also saw somebody put my Karu. And
speak truth.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you know this, Baba. You know Dr. Ray Higgins?
No. Oh yeah, I don't know him personally. I haven't met him personally, but actually I am very familiar with his work because I am an elder in that society.
In that society?
Yeah.
Okay.
National elders.
Oh, okay. Dr. Ray Higgins that used to be a minister.
St. Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I used to live in St. Louis.
Oh, okay. How long ago was that?
Many years ago.
Okay, because I'm looking thinking in my mind some pictures or something, right?
Well, my daughter, I have a daughter that's 47 and one that's 48 in St. Louis.
Okay. Yeah. So I was a minister. I was, if we can use the term, ordained or consecrated or what have you, from the African Village and Culture Center, by Dr. Ray Higgins. And one of the things he bestowed on us as ministers is that you must be a Makaru. He said that it's not about being a, what's the term he used? It's not about being a popular speaker. It's about being, what's the term? It escaped me, but really being truthful and honest. You know what I mean? Versus being popular, being honest and trustworthy, and really sometimes being unpopular when you know that you have to be honest and trustworthy. Truthful in order to bring about change.
That's right.
And I find that even my therapeutic approach, and people come back to me, and some people might not, but lots of people come to me and stay with me because I don't just say, okay, how does that feel? I really give them an analysis of themselves and send them back home and they struggling in their mind. Oh, you said you kind of saw some of that. I am who I am where I show up. You dig? So they tend to struggle. They might not even like me in the session, but when they come back, they're like, you know what? I hate to admit it, but that was accurate. So as a therapist, from my standpoint, is essential. And you spoke about it earlier in a different way, but I'm talking about this, not what you talked about, but I'm talking about carefrontation. Carefrontation or confrontation is necessary. Without a doubt. Because in fact, a lot of people with these different personalities that you spoke about, those of us with personalities, some of the best, those who've been through most of the situations and and traumas and seen a lot of things. If you don't have the ability to confront, they'll sit with you and they'll chill with you, but they really think you green.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
You said without a doubt. They at some point they're gonna say, I like him, but this Negro ain't speed. He ain't on my speed. Because there's a lot of with that personality. But I realize that personality is in our community. You don't want to be told about yourself, but you want to be told about yourself. And so what I'm saying is, speaking truth is not always popular in our community. And for years I sat back and I played double dutch. You know what I mean? Because if people know me for years, they'll know that, okay, he might say something that he might say something that nobody else is going to say, type of thing, right? Yeah, he's going to ask a question. And it's not that he said it aggressively, but he just said the thing. But I don't know, what do you think about that when it comes to, and I'm going to tie it back to something I said. I put a post out and you're one of the few elders who responded. And I said, who are going to hold the elders accountable for not holding us accountable? That's right. And you can do what you will with it collectively, and that being honest and truthful, and it not being so popular in the community all the time.
I'm working with 3 different organizations attempting to build an eldership up in our communities.
Yes, sir.
I don't even want to talk about some of them because it hurts my heart from the disunity that they have. But that the idea of being truthful is challenging. It's challenging because I used to be a vocal person all the time.
Yes, sir.
You would always know what I was thinking.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You would always know what I was thinking because I would make sure that if you said anything against what I was thinking, particularly if I thought I was right, I would make sure that you heard my view.
Wow. Okay.
As I've grown, I understand that that's not always important.
Yes, sir.
For you to necessarily hear my view. However, if I see that you have a potential to learn something that I may be able to add, then I'm going to share with my view. But other than that, 9 times out of 10, you may not even know I have a voice at all. Because I don't have to tell you. I don't have to talk. I'm also the type of warrior that know how to be a spy.
How to be who?
A spy.
A spy? Yeah. A spy. Okay.
Yeah. So I know how to sit quiet and be invisible. I know how to be the invisible man, the spook that sat by the door.
I've observed all of that too.
So
I just thought it was your Baltimore kicking in.
Oh, that's part of it. That's where I learned the basic technique.
That's where you learned the basic technique. Yeah. I think was it your book I was reading? And we speak about, you're talking about like Edwin Nichols, and there's these different axiologies, and you're also speaking about it might have been somebody else. I don't have the note in front of me, but it's speaking about different groups of people having different personalities. And in this case, we were talking about racial groups. I think it was talking about racial groups, and so I think about the different personalities that I actually see in different cities. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's very interesting. I know you also was in DC for a great amount of years, right? And where I got my clinical training was interesting. Was at Job Corps up in Woodstock.
Oh, okay.
So it's where people as far as California, but most of these people from Baltimore, younger people from Baltimore and Philadelphia. And that's where the young man was doing the twerking at. But, and I had to look, young man, you know what I'm saying? And, but nonetheless, I got to see those personalities in real play there. It was very interesting.
I've lived in New York. I've lived in Chicago. I've lived in East St. Louis. I've lived in St. Louis. I've lived in Indiana, and I've lived in Texas. And The only differences that we have in our cultural neighborhoods
Mhm.
is our dialect.
Mm.
You know, a measurement. Here's a measurement.
Yeah.
The cheese.
Mm.
When I say the cheese, you were a kid when when everybody had the cheese, was selling the cheese.
The block cheese?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Every community that I've been in had the cheese.
Everybody had
and
the cheese.
Everybody had the same stories. If they was the Jews, the Chinese, the Koreans that we sold it to, and they sold it back to us. I mean, every single cultural community that I was in had the same stories, man. It was like, oh, I was in Baltimore at the same time we was doing it.
So we're not as different as we think all the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I learned that. I learned that. That's one of I'm able to identify the fail-safe. Because I seen the way that we were miseducated in all of those different areas. The same miseducation. Little Black Sambo, and people in my generation, when we looked in the textbooks, we seen Little Black Sambo, and that was to identify us. Wasn't no positive images of us. You know, we seen, I watched today for the third time or the fourth time, The Boy That Painted Christ Black, short story by Dr. John Henry Clark, on film with Wesley Snipes and I forget the other actors, but it just goes to show how one story get exemplified over and over and over and over and over and over. It's racism and oppression, racism as oppression. White folks showing who they are because they have charge of they have the power, and miseducation. The whole miseducational system, if you identified it in that particular movie, they didn't want Black people to identify themselves as having no kind of power.
Yes, sir. So what I'm going to do is ask you about the cheese. No, I'm messing with you. And someone says here, Brother Bawana, all the way from the Bahamas, says this guy is very impressive. And you got a little red, black, and green love going on. Oh, hold on. Let me let you do it on the camera because I missed it the first time. It said, thank you. So in closing, bringing it all together and all these differences that we're talking about these perceived differences and all these things. When you look at this on a global level and you look at ADOS and FBA and you look at, even male versus female and olders versus youngers, elders in the next generation, and all these different ways that I would argue we've been, the fail-safe is working. What do you, if you could?
I think I can. And it's not something that I haven't said, but in bringing it all together, or the thing that I've noticed, and I notice it because I know me better than I know anybody else. I am my main study and my main product and project. And over the years, what I have found out is that because I come up in this society, under this colonial system, under this miseducation, I am programmed to think a certain way.
Yes, sir.
And in that particular thinking, it produces self-destructive behavior based on self-destructive thinking. I don't look at my own motives for the actions that I take. I may tell a truth, but I don't look at the motives for that particular action. Globally, all of the information that most of us study, we identify dynamic truths, but we don't work on our own healing and our own pain. So we have multitudes of stuffed up resentment inside of us. And if you know anything about resentment and frozen anger, it's triggered by anyone outside of you that comes by you. They may have a fragrance of somebody they may have the color on of somebody. They may just have the name sound of somebody, but there's a trigger. Like I used the example, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall and all of those, that ideology that's deep down inside of you. that is triggered. And once that's triggered, then you implode inside yourself, sometime on great amounts, sometime on minor amounts. But you're practicing self-hatred and self-anger. And that self-hatred and self-anger that becomes the resentment prevents you from moving further, because you have to protect yourself from that person. Learning how to love yourself enables you to be free, so you don't have to protect yourself. If we look at the ideology that love conquers all, and I'm not talking about that superficial love, I'm talking about the practice of making sure that I love myself on a daily basis, activity like my Karu. I practice it. And if we learn to do that as a people, then that's automatic unity. That's automatic unity. We don't have to have the same ideology, but I love me, and if I love me, I love you. That's what I think about all day. That's what my thoughts be on. How do I practice self-love so my brother can identify that and we can learn to love each other?
If I love me.
If I'm practicing self-love and self-forgiveness, which means the self-love and self-forgiveness is when I catch myself rehearsing a negative thought, I displace that negative thought with a positive thought.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again to displace that negative energy. I insert positive energy over and over and over and over.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
You know, one of the things, I mean, that was profound. And one of the things that I've seen over and over again, and when I work with people on various levels, is that when we have struggled to feel cared for ourselves, or we didn't think people cared for us, we struggle with negative self-talk.
Wow.
In fact, people might not know it. We criticize ourselves the most.
Yeah.
So at some point, because we are so self-critical, that we have to have these escapes of criticizing and pointing the fingers at others to give ourselves a break. Hence, we can't even give ourselves compassion. We can't even give ourselves empathy or that self-love that you speak about. So we can't give compassion to others when we felt nobody ever gave it to us. And we can't give it to ourselves because we never learned that we were worthy of it. Hence, any and everybody becomes our perpetual enemy. And that's why I struggle with, not as I struggle, that's why I struggle with. I struggle and I struggle in trying to bring some balance to the conversation. You're not my enemy because you see, I'm saying my brothers and sisters who here, who's struggling with this idea that other people are attacking us, and we just get stuck there and not see the bigger picture, and vice versa. Those from other places, and they think that people from here are attacking them, and all these different things, right? And the thing is, when we are in fight and flight mode, we understand that we're not necessarily operating in the prefrontal cortex region of our brain. Hence, we're not actually able to even really see things clearly or empathize with others, because we're operating in more of a survival list type of mentality and framework. So I really appreciate that what you laid down and how you laid it down. But yeah, what you can't have compassion for other people if you don't have self-compassion. You can't have self-love for others if you don't have self-love. And I have another version of self-love. Another spin on self-love, and maybe we can, we can frame things in different ways. And that's the one way I frame things sometimes, is that for certain people, I let them know you love yourself, but you haven't learned to do it in an adaptive manner. You're doing it in a very maladaptive manner.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, practice of self-love is important. And notice that I say the practice, just like the practice of forgiveness. Most of us refuse to identify that forgiveness is all about the self. When you start talking about forgiveness, people start immediately saying, I'm not forgiving them. It's like
Absolutely.
it took me literally years to forgive the ideology of the police. Now, I grew up in Baltimore, and we ain't got no love for no pigs, you know, and I still don't have no love for no pigs. But I love myself to the point that I do not rehearse the memory of what they do and what they did in my head where it defeats me and my thinking.
Right.
My forgiveness is about me loving me and not rehearsing the memory of their negativeness, but about me inserting affirmations of my positiveness.
Yes, sir.
That's my self-love and self-forgiveness. And that's what one of the other things we have to learn. Let me also put a plug in for my own practice. If anybody want to ever get in touch with me, 202-352-2056. Now know that you need to text me first because I may not answer no phone. So 202-352-2056.
Yeah, appreciate that. Any other information you want to give out? Any closing words?
Man, the closing words is I want to say Asante Sana to the spirit in you that identified to bring me on here. I needed to do this. I needed to do this. I'm sure that your spirit say you needed to do it too. But I needed to do this because I don't get as much opportunity. And people ask me to speak regularly. And I you know, because I don't want to be on I don't want to be on the rotational role speakers. I've done that. But I like being in forums that we can share and talk one-on-one and expose ourselves to other people where we can grow.
Yes, sir.
And I am thankful for this opportunity, and I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you and your approach here, Baba, and I think it's so powerful, right? You can, like, for me, I can see the, you know, whatever terms we use, the practitioner in you, right? Self-practice, and then also one aiding our people in evolving and developing themselves, healing or what have you. I think that lots of times people often overlook the amount of self-work that is necessary in order to be in these spaces, like to even especially help others. You know, I think I've heard people, some of the people that have helped guide me along the way say you can only take people as far as you've gone. And they always say, you probably know this one, stay in shape to serve, right? So that's always been echoed to me. And that goes back to your book, Deconstructing the Fail-Safe, Self-Care Principles for Re-Africanization. I really appreciate your time today, Baba. It was hopefully this is not the last. This is your home. If you have any topics that you think that you know you want to speak to, just know you got a mic. It seemed like the family loved you in the chat. Family, make sure you give us some likes. Make sure you share, you subscribe, all those type of things. This conversation for me has been very beneficial. And that one-on-one, that dialogue, and I think that dialogical approach was evidence here today. You about to say something?
Yeah, I don't like marketing that much, but I want to say also that I could also be reached on the Black Awakening movement.
Yeah.
Every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. We're on the Black Awakening movement. We're on Facebook, Instagram, BB Toomey. But if you send a request into the Black Awakening movement, please answer all the membership questions because I'm the gatekeeper. And if you don't, you won't get in. But we have different topics every week, and you'll hear a lot of the same information and a lot of the same people that you hear on regular venues. Thank you.
Yeah, it looked like Assurant I don't know. Assure Int. I don't know. Entertainment maybe. I'm horrible with the names, the YouTube handles. But nonetheless, they put out shout out to Black Awakening Movement. They meet every Thursday, 7 p.m. on Zoom. Come join the convo. Very powerful Facebook group as well. Is that how do they also, or do you have to send that link to them? Can they join a Facebook group?
We African centered, and we stay close to home, so we right at the door. Everybody can't get in.
Okay, so cool. So the best ways to reach out to you,
Yes.
and then also, how do they get the Zoom link? I guess
What they do is they join the Black Awakening Movement. It's best to go on Facebook or Instagram or BB2Me and join the Black Awakening Movement. And please answer the questions, because we put the questions there as membership questions because we want to see your discipline. If you don't practice no discipline, we're not letting you in.
Okay.
The discipline is following directions and answering the questions.
We
didn't ask you, did you kill anybody? We don't want to know your personal business. We just want to practice the discipline. Practice the discipline. Come on in, man. It's family. It's one of the most family-orientated groups online that you, particularly if you're African.
I appreciate that, Baba. So family, make sure you thumb up the video, you like the video, you hype the video, and leave comments at the end. Felt good, Baba Khalil. Should I say Bey?
Well, since you started it, the name is Dr. Al Mustafa Al Khalil-Bey.
Oh, okay.
Al means the, Mustafa means chosen and beloved, Il means God. So Al Mustafa Al Khalil-Bey is the chosen and beloved of God, good friend and servant of the people. That's what the name means. That's who I represent.
Ashe. All right, family, we're gonna get up out of here. We appreciate you stopping through, and make sure you go and do all the things that our dear Baba, Dr. Al Khalil, I can't see all the rest right now, Bey, has shared with us. And make sure you like the video, share the video, subscribe, family. Until next time, family, I'm gonna get up on out of here. I think the dear Baba said enough. I don't have to put any closing on top of that. Peace and power.
When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back.
Generalized black woman is doing this and being this. That is that is irresponsible.
No,
when you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back.
Showing me,
Black and proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and proud. I'm telling you.
When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back. A page,
what is the status of people with half FBA?
I'm telling you. When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back.
That's why I was laughing, because I am
claim your Africanness.
I'm not saying the framework doesn't do a thing, but
become a part of it.
We've been
embrace
forward to black men
become a
the
part of
masters, being in the control. We
become a part of it.
Only
Embrace it.
one of the
Become a
best
part
stories I've
of it.
ever heard.
Embrace it. When you claim your
have
Africanness, you're going
mastered
to get your mind
that
back.
mental growth takes
Black
place.
and
You've
proud.
been
Claim
misled
your
by
Africanness.
leadership,
Black
for
and
instance,
proud.
that
I'm
think
telling
you
you.
can consume.
When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back. Black and proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and proud. I'm telling you.